Hi there, Thursday night, that time again, and I've been listening to some 45s, so I thought I'd share. I do love my 45s, as I've said, so here's another 5 45s, starting with this one. Now, I think a few weeks ago, April was it? I can't remember. Record Store Day happened, and I know it's very fashionable to be snooty about Record Store Day, and let's be honest, most of the stuff that comes out isn't really my cup of tea, but that's fine. In this country, the last few years at least anyway, I've noticed that they have a habit of releasing some very nice and highly sought after soul 45s. And this was one of them this year. There were actually some really great ones this year, but this was a particularly nice one by a singer called Cynthia Sheila, I'll Cry Over You. I didn't know this song before it was before Record Store Day, so I'm very glad they re-released it because it's absolutely wonderful. Really nice, groovy, mellow soul, the way I absolutely love it. And the only criticism I could say is perhaps that they appear to have pressed the same side twice. So we don't get part two, we just get part one twice. But I'm sure part two probably sounded quite similar. But it's a lovely, lovely tune on what was called JB's Records. I know the original of this is like 400, 500 quid, so I'm definitely in favour of that if Record Store Day is going to do that. Have a listen. Many years ago, I had a compilation of nice 70s soul, and there was a group on there called The Chants, and I just assumed they were another American soul group. The only curious thing about them was their big tune, which they had on this compilation, which I have since managed to get on 45. The tune is I've Been Trying, and the label is called Chipping Norton Records, which I thought was a very strange name for an American soul label, and it turns out it's not an American soul label, and they're not an American group. They are a British group, probably better known to most people as The Real Thing, Liverpool's very own. And this was when they first started out. You can see the song there written by Chris and Eddie Amu from the Real Thing. This is lovely, lovely mellow soul at its finest. Very collectible, this record. This copy's a bit crummy, bit crackly, but it's all right because it's quite an expensive one to get these days, but very popular amongst the soul crowd. Really, really love this one. Definitely recommend it if you don't know it, but perhaps you do already. Give it a taste. And it's nice to find a soul classic every now and again when you're perusing in a record shop. And this turned up a few months ago. This is Foster Silver's Misdemeanor. If you don't know this song, you probably do. You just don't know that you know it. Very famous, been sampled a lot, been covered a lot. And it's in that canon of kiddie soul music. So you've got Jackson 5, 5 Stair Steps, Foster Silver's. So squeaky vocals and everything, but really, really great. Very, very funky. Absolute classic tune. Love this. Give it a listen, even if you know it already. Okay, something slightly different now. In London, certainly, and in many parts of the world, there has been quite a big thing recently for island funk. That is funk and soul music from the Caribbean. Not necessarily from Jamaica, quite often from Trinidad and other parts of the Caribbean, the smaller islands. And it's become very collectible. There's some great labels like Kalima, worth looking out for. But sadly, they got very expensive as well as a result. It's not something I've really followed too much because it's just a bit out of my price range and I don't really know what I'm looking for. But a couple of weeks ago on eBay, a whole load of Trinidad funk records came up and they all sold for quite big prices, 40, 50, 60 quid and above. But I put a bid on one and I was the only one to bid on it. So for 10 quid, I managed to pick this up, which was very, very nice. No, not that one. The group is called Super Brass from Trinidad and Tobago on Dino Sounds. The song is nice and slow, very urgent beat, funky, got that definite Caribbean touch to it as well. Really, really nice. Really pleased to get that because these kind of records are not easy to find and apparently increasingly scarce as well. So really pleased to get that. Give it a listen. And finally, one more, sticking with the Caribbean, the mighty Studio One. When I first started listening to reggae music, which probably would have been in the 90s when I was a kid, I didn't really know much about it, but I just listened to what was on the radio. And a lot of music that was being released then, new, was basically rehashed versions of old stuff. And it was very popular or very common to have many different tunes on the same rhythm. I didn't quite understand this, but well, I accepted it and I understand this is how it goes with reggae. And a lot of those great classic rhythms, they come from Studio One, and this is perhaps one of the most famous. Pretty Looks by the Heptones. Loads of different versions. I know particularly in the UK came out in the 90s by different artists, but it's a very, very classic rhythm. And the other day I was listening or reading something, I think, about the best albums of the 60s. And the author had done a really interesting list because he had some of the well-known things, Pet Sounds, Sgt. Pepper's, all the things that people would know. But he put the album, like a sort of collection of their hits, of the Heptones, because I think the music that they were making then is just as significant, if not arguably even more creative and more significant in many ways than a lot of the celebrated music from the 1960s, and it perhaps hasn't been given the attention that it deserves in the wider music world. There is a lot more to reggae than Bob Marley, obviously, and there was a lot more to reggae before Bob Marley as well. And this kind of thing is definitely something that everybody needs to know about. So the Heptones don't get much better than that. Anyway, I'll put a little sample of that on for you as well, but that's me and my 545s again. Hope everyone's well. Till next time, all the best.